makes it easier for the letter reader to find what the letter is about. Leave a line or space between subject line and the body of the letter. So subject line is very important. Subject line means what is the letter about. So when your letter reader will hold your letter, he will first see the subject line, and the subject line will tell him or her what is your letter about. There are some ways of writing subject line. Example of a subject line: suppose this is your page, first will come title. If title is not there, if it is optional, then will come sender's address. So either title will come or will come sender's address. Then will come date. We saw the types of ways of writing address and date. Then you have to leave some space. Then you will write inside address. That also we saw how we can write American or British style. Then you will again leave some space, and then you will write the subject. So this is how subject will be written. For example, if your letter is about the payment or letter is about some goods. So here is an example about our order for 200 computer systems. So if you are writing a letter to any company, or you have done any transaction earlier and you are mentioning that transaction, or you are mentioning some matter, so that matter will come here in brief. You cannot write 3-4 line here. You just have to write a one line, and in one line you will explain what is your letter about. So please remember, this is the structure. One by one this structure will come on your screen, and you will see how each and every part is written and where it is placed. It is very important for a letter writer to keep in the mind each and every part, how it is written, where to leave space, how to write it, what are the ways of writing dates, etc. So we just saw the subject line. Then is salutation. So first we will see what is salutation. Salutation is a way of addressing the recipient of the letter, means letter reader. When you will write a letter, so it is very important to keep in the mind whom you are writing a letter, and accordingly you will use salutation. Salutation means address, not that address. Residential address is not being talked about here. Address means what you call in Gujarati sambodhan. So here it is very important that whom you are writing a letter, and accordingly you will use the salutation. Secondly, it is a greeting used to begin a letter and relates the letter to the reader. It means that it is a greeting to whom you are writing a letter. You are writing a letter to your elder, or your younger, or your friend, or a boss. Here you are discussing business letters, so no personal relations will come. So official relations, you are writing a letter to your boss or colleague, so how to address them? So the word you are using to address them is called salutation. There are various ways through which a person can be addressed. So now we will see what are those ways. First, you can use sir or madam. Either you can use sir or you can use madam. A very formal, it means it is a very formal address, very official or formal address. When you can use this salutation? When receiver's gender is unknown. For example, if you are writing an application letter or an order letter or a purchase letter to some company, and if you don't know that the person who will read your letter is male or female, means gender is unknown, at that time you can write sir, then you can put a comma, then you can put a oblique symbol. This is called oblique, and then you can write madam. It means you do not know whether your letter reader is male or female, whether it is sir or madam. Therefore you have to write like this. Secondly, you can use dear sir or dear madam. You can also use this dear sir or madam. It is formal. Either you can use sir or madam, or you can use dear sir or madam. But what is the difference? When you use sir or madam, so it is very formal, means you are not adding any emotional touch or personal relations or some familiarity to that person, nothing. So So you are using either sir or madam, but when you say dear sir or dear madam, it means that the person is dear to you. Either you know him earlier, or you are putting some complimentary to that person. Thirdly, you can use sirs. So you can write sir, then oblique, and then s. When to use this salutation? For a big firm or a company, or for more than two partners. For example, if you are writing a letter to some company, and if the owners of that particular company are more than one, two, three, or four partners, and if you are writing a letter to that particular company, and if you want to address those partners, all the partners, then at that time you have to write like this, sir. So you can put an oblique, or then you can write S. There are other salutations also. Let us see. The first is Mr. So we know already when Mr. is used, Mr. is for a married or an unmarried male. So you can write Mr. Then you can put some name, his name, or you can write Miss. So when you are using Mr., it is for a married or unmarried male, but when you are using Miss, it is for unmarried female. You can use Mrs. When you use Mrs., it is for married female, or you can use like this, MS, and then you can say dot. When a person can use this for a female to hide the marital status. So when you are writing a letter to some lady, and if you want to hide her marital status, or if you don't want to declare whether she is Miss or Mrs., then you can write like this. So these are some other salutations which you can very much use while writing your letter. There are some points to be remembered, so we have to keep in mind. So please remember, the first point is use Messrs or Mrs. or Mr. before the name when the name of the letter reader is unknown. Means if you do not know the name of the letter reader, you just know the designation or a name of a company, you do not know your letter reader personally, at that time you have to use this. Second, use dear sir or madam when the name of the letter reader is unknown and the letter is addressed to an organization. So when you are writing a letter directly to some company or a person and the name is unknown, then you can use dear sir or madam. Last is, don't forget to put a comma after the salutation and keep a line between the salutation and the subject line. So when you write, for example, if you write sir, then you have to keep comma, or if you write dear sir, then you have to keep a comma. So after putting a comma, you have to keep a line between the salutation and the subject line. So these are few things which you have to keep in mind. Salutation will come after the subject. In some letter we have seen that subject comes first and then comes salutation, but the actually method is salutation will come after the subject. Let us look at the example. Suppose this is your letter. First will come title. If title is not there, then will come sender's address, then will come date, space, and then will come inside address, then will come subject. So soon after the inside address you have to write subject. What is your letter about? And as we said in the title, salutation will come after the subject. So soon after subject you can write salutation, and after salutation your letter will start. It means body of the letter. So this is the structure which you have to keep in mind, and don't miss this structure. You cannot write inside address first and then sender's address, or you cannot write date first, or you cannot directly write subject, or you cannot start your letter directly with salutation. You have to follow this structure. These are some signals of a good letter. If you follow the structure regularly and strictly, your letter will look good and decent, and it will leave a positive impression on your letter reader. Now comes the very important part, body of the letter. What is the body of the letter? First point is at least 2 or more paragraphs. As we saw that soon after salutation you have to start your letter. So when you start your letter, you have to know one thing, that your body of letter will contain at least 2 paragraphs. Now each paragraph will contain information, different information. First is, so first paragraph states the reference and context of the date and subject of previous correspondence and response of the writer. When you are writing a letter to any company, and if you have already done a transaction earlier with the same company, in the first paragraph what you have to write is reference and context. What is the reference and what is the context you are writing your current letter? So these two things you have to mention in the first paragraph. Similarly, you can mention date and subject of the previous correspondence if you are writing a second letter to the same company. And last, you have to mention the response of the writer. If you have done any transaction or correspondence earlier with the same company, so you have to show your response or your feedback in the first letter of the first letter. I have kept some example, further it will come. It expresses the writer's mood or feeling of pleasure, regret, surprise, gratitude, etc. The first paragraph is very important because in the first paragraph, firstly you are putting reference and context and dates, but soon after this, when you will start writing your letter reader should know your mood, whether you are writing a letter with pleasure, or you are writing a letter with regret, or you are writing a letter with surprise or a gratitude. Let me give you one simple example. If you have ordered for 200 benches for your institute, and so company, furniture company, has already dispatched you those 200 benches, but out of those 200 benches 25 benches are defective. So what you are writing a letter about the defective benches. So when you will write this letter reader should automatically know your mood, whether you are now you will not write this letter with a full of pleasure that we are very happy that out of 500 or this many 200 benches 25 are defective. There your mood will not be of a pleasure. There you will write your letter with lot of regret, or you can say dissatisfaction. So in the first paragraph you have to express your mood. If you are writing a letter of a gratitude, if you are fully satisfied with so and so company or performance or goods or whatever products, then if you are writing a letter of appreciation, gratitude, thanking them, then also in the first paragraph your mood should be expressed by your language. So your letter, your language, your style, your words, choice of words, vocabulary, everything should convey your mood. That is why this first paragraph is very important. Then second paragraph. Second paragraph shows the message or information regarding the subject. For example, we just saw that the letter is about the defective benches. So you will write the subject, and in the second paragraph you will elaborate that subject. You will give more information about that you ordered 200 benches, 25 are defective, what is the defect, what is the problem, you are dissatisfied, etc., etc. So you have to be very careful, you have to be choosy and selective in your words and vocabulary. So second paragraph is also very important. Then it should be understandable and in clear language. Please keep this point in mind, dear students. Do not write your letter with full of jargon, technical words and difficult words, and with difficult sentence structures and all. Official or business letters should be written in easiest language, because in brief, in short, you want to convey your message. Letter reader should not be baffled or confused by your language. Your language should be clear in two ways: conceptually as well as syntactically, means grammatically. Your letter should not contain spelling error, grammatical error, etc. Those tips will come in further slides, but here it is said that it should be understandable. When your letter reader reads your letter, he should easily understand your language, what you want to convey. So this is the very important point. Then the last paragraph will end with a related message or conclusion. Please remember that you are writing a letter. There is a big difference between letter writing and essay writing. You are not writing an essay. You have to complete your letter within a page. In one page you have to complete your letter. It is very important to say anything in brief. You can write the 10 pages essay, but if I tell you to write the same matter in one page, it is difficult. In letter writing, you have to keep this thing in mind. So the last paragraph will be very important and it will end with a related message or a conclusion. And to conclude anything in brief is an art, and you have to learn this art in selective and choosy words, in professional language, in business language. You have to do this, and therefore I am explaining this point in detail. Body of the letter is something where you have to be very careful. Address you know, sender's address you know, subject writing is also not so difficult. You can easily write the subject. Remembering the methods of dates and address is also not so challenging. But writing body of the letter is very challenging, and it is very important also. So, but by time and again, if you will keep practicing writing same letters, then I hope that you will learn this art or skill. Please look at this particular chart or structure. I will explain if the fonts are not readable. First is ABC Industries. Here is an hypothetical example. Suppose ABC Industry is writing a letter. So first will come ABC Industries, then comma, 123 GIDC Sabalpur, Junagadh. So this is a hypothetical address, like a company called ABC is writing a letter. Then will come date. Then after leaving some space, we will write the inside address. For example, manager XYZ company Rajkot. So who is writing a letter? ABC Industries, its address. Whom to write a letter? XYZ company, where the company belongs to? Rajkot. Then you will again leave a line or a space. Then you will write the subject. Now what is your letter is about? About the last payment. This is the subject of your letter. So till here there is no problem. Then will come salutation. Dear sir. So first part, then date, second part, third part, fourth and fifth. Now will come body of the letter. As I said, there are few things where you have to be careful. Body of the letter will start with the first paragraph like this. These are the red fonts, body of the letter. So look at the language. With reference to your last letter,